This is Lucky Smith in Toluca Lake with
Jesse Saunders.
And Jesse, how you feel about your show tonight?
Well, I feel good. This is actually, we did a release party in Chicago last week, which was really nice. Actually, the public hotel system there is they've been a supporter of ours for a while, and we actually did the celebration event there back in January.
And for those people who are not familiar with you, what is your role that you play in the music industry?
It's my role. Oh my God.
Or one of your main talents, I would say.
One of the things that happened while I was in Chicago at this, what I was just telling you about, the house music reunions. We call it Chosen Few House Music Reunion Picnic. It's like this big, huge picnic for 50,000 people.
Okay.
Yeah. And normally we give out awards for lifetime achievement and different things. DJ Hall of Fame we have set up for house music and all that. This year I actually gave myself an award.
Nice.
I never give myself an award, but it's like we recognize people, the pioneers who have contributed the most to the genre to make it what it is, and it's like
Bad Boy Bill, right? Like those type of legends.
Yeah, and Frankie Knuckles, who passed away this year, and people of that kind of thing. But we give them away all the time, but we're actually, especially me, are the ones that actually kind of created and originated the whole genre. So it's like I feel weird giving myself an award, but I deserve it, right?
Yeah, you were there from the beginning.
Yeah, well, especially this year because it's the 30th anniversary. So
you were the ones of the first ones that created EDM. Well, that originated house music in the first place.
Yeah. Well, let me finish where I left off, and I'll get to that part. So, giving myself an award this year, which we actually, I had to actually bring somebody in to do the award because I can't give it to myself. It's just weird.
Yeah.
But it's because of this whole 30th anniversary thing. And, as I said, we did a celebration events back in January because the official 30th anniversary was January 18th of 2014. We did about 10 cities where we just had people. They could be big events, small events, whatever, and they would just get together and kind of, it's like an Independence Day or Orange kind of thing. So I did that back in January, and then July 4th weekend we do the Chosen Few House Music Reunion event. And while I was there, I did another release party there for the album. This is for the 30th anniversary compilation album.
Where can people find that at?
Well, as of today, Friday, it will be available at iTunes. And Tracksource, Beatport, all of the,
nice
download source and stuff like that. So tonight is the LA event for the release.
Of the album. Mm-hmm. So,
let me
okay.
I don't want to get to your question.
Okay.
So, all of that started with me back in the day, long time ago. Back in the day, just kind of wanting to make something different or do something different with music. And at the time there was obviously disco, there was electronic hip-hop, there was new wave, there was reggae, there was all these different kinds of things. And I used to play at a club called the Playground. And at the Playground, I don't know how much you know about Chicago, but Chicago's a very kind of segregated city. It's like you don't go in certain parts or whatever, you might not come back home alive or
wow.
whatever. I mean, I'm talking neighborhoods, not even just like black, white or whatever. I'm talking ethnicity. You couldn't go in it was almost like each one was its own little country and you had to cross the border to get through any of them.
I've never been to Chicago. I always wanted to go, but wow.
Yeah, Chicago is a very interesting place, and right now it's the murder capital of the country. Matter of fact, the weekend that we were there, they had 82 shootings that day.
82 shootings?
82 shootings.
For the July weekend.
Saturday, July 5th, when we had the event. Not at our event, but throughout the city of Chicago. Ours is the only non-violent, peaceful event that Chicago has ever had where there's never been one incident and no casualty.
Is that what, that speaks very, very highly of the pop people, the genre, the crowd that you guys bring in. I mean, did you think 30 years ago that you were going to be a part of such a movement? I mean, 30 years later, you created something that nobody was even listening to where it has evolved to house, techno, EDM. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, all of that, when you think about things, any genre that has kind of saturated the world and become kind of its own entity where pretty much everybody knows what it is has never grown from someone trying to do it. It's always grown from a series of events and everything kind of falling into place, which made it do such and such. So no, I had no idea what was going on. I just knew that I was doing something, putting something together a little different, and I wanted to hear it a certain way. And really, the reason why I ended up putting out that first house record was because I had actually written my first song was called Fantasy. And I actually there was this girl in a band there called Screamin' Rachel, and throughout Chicago local scene, she was like the big vocalist, the big band in town.
Yeah.
But she was a rocker girl, but I didn't know anybody else that could sing, so we ended up getting her to sing on the record. So she actually sang on Fantasy, and it was supposed to come out through this small label there known as Mitch Ball Records, but they sat on it for too long, and I started getting antsy, and I was just like, well, I'm going to put out my own record. So that's how On and On actually ended up coming out before Fantasy. So after I did that, they put out Fantasy afterward. But it took them like 9 months to get it out.
Sometimes, do you ever find out why they were staying on it or why they were waiting?
It's a small label. I mean,
Money.
a number of reasons, yeah.
Money
or
is always...
It was something different than they had ever done before too, so they might have just been kind of apprehensive about how do we market it, what do we do with it.
Who's going to listen to it, who's going to buy it?
Yeah, which is, well, at that time in Chicago, house music, which will kind of establish as warehouse music, because there's two different genres of it that people, because if you go to Chicago and you say house music, they generally will think of one thing, but what we know house music today as part of the whole electronic dance music is a totally different thing than that. So you kind of have to separate the two and understand your audiences and how it works, because Chicago being the birthplace, they're very serious about their terminology and their house music, and nobody's going to take it away from us kind of thing. So
oh my God.
It's an experience. But to actually elaborate more on what I was saying, when I played at the Playground, it was the first club, and it was a teen club too, to actually sit in an area that was neutral and central to all of this segregation that was going on. It sat downtown, just south, on the south part of downtown, and right on the lake. So it meant that the west side, the north side, the south side, and everybody could kind of come together in that neutral zone without any problem. So we had, not only was it just like diverse in terms of like the citywide, but it was diverse in terms of cultural aspects, racially, the whole nine yards. Chicago hadn't done that before. In Chicago, it's like white state on this side, black state on this side, Latina state over here, Asian state over here.
Did the cohesiveness of cohesiveness of peace being promoted, did that help fuel your love for house music?
Well,
because it was bringing positive from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, I went to like high schooling and whatnot in Hyde Park in Chicago. Hyde Park is where the University of Chicago sits. So it's one of the areas in Chicago that is actually very diverse, because you have a lot of people obviously coming in from other cities and whatnot going to school, and the Hyde Park community in general was just really more professors and scientists and lawyers and those kind of things, which got along, and everybody's kids played with everybody's kids. It wasn't a big deal. Now you go out of that little bubble, and that's where you encounter all this other stuff in Chicago.
So tonight's album, the release party, let's talk about the latest release.
Well, basically every 5 years I do a compilation album release and a tour after it. The tour is not going to start until September, actually. It's the first time I've actually done it this late. I usually do it at the beginning of the year and go through, but because of sponsors and things that are going on, we kind of have to do it that way. But anyway, this is a compilation. This year I decided to do something a little different. Normally I do the album myself, produce the album, the compilation, select the tracks, selections, or whatever, that kind of stuff. This year I decided that I wanted to kind of open it up and do a little something different. So I brought in Kenny Summit. Actually, we had been working together on some things prior to it, and he asked me what I was going to do, and I said, hey, well, let's do something together. And So it ended up being now, Jesse Saunders presents the 30th anniversary of house music compilation, mixed and compiled by Jesse Saunders and Kenny Summit. So Kenny actually has brought in stuff for his label. It's called Good For You Records. Mine is Broken Records, and we just kind of came together and made 30 tracks, because I wasn't going to come up with 30 songs. So I did 15 and he did 15, so it actually worked out. So so that's what's going on as far as that's concerned. And we also did mixes. He did a mix for the 15 that he did. I did a mix for the 15 I have, and they're all available on the album.
What was it like working with them?
Well, I mean, these days when you're working with people, it's not like you're sitting there like we are, and we're I mean, he could be halfway around the world, and I could be here. You know what I mean?
Most of the time, it's like emailing each other back and forth, saying each other track
Facebook
samples.
more so than email and Dropboxing. All that kind of stuff. So, but so that comes out on his label in conjunction with mine. So he's kind of like doing most of the footwork. I'm doing all of the kind of release parties and things like that as well. And as I said, I do it every 5 years. So the 25th anniversary 5 years ago, I actually commissioned a whole art exhibit behind it that depicted all of the major points in there and the top pioneers and people. And actually, I'll have the little small versions of them over there tonight, so you can actually take a look at them.
Oh, great! But, and then take some pictures of it too.
And then we have this big, huge, kind of what do you call it? Vinyl backdrop thing that I started back in January when we did a celebration, having everybody sign it out here.
Oh, cool.
So now we're gonna do, people that didn't get to do it last time now can come and do it now this time, and just things to keep all of the community together and make everyone feel like they're a part of it.
So where can people buy tickets at? You say you guys are going on tour in September. Correct.
Well, actually we have a ticket sponsor yet that we haven't announced. But as soon as that, all of that solidified, we'll announce everything.
So right now, is everybody getting their music on the iTunes coming out?
Yeah, right now it's more about the album than anything. Get that out, and then you go out in support of the album itself on the tour.
And then it'll be released, you said tomorrow, right?
No, it's released today.
Today's the release on iTunes.
Yeah. It was on TrackSource last week. For a week, they had an exclusive, and this week now it's available everywhere.
Oh, and then tonight is the grand party at the L Bar.
Yeah, it's just a nice little intimate thing, nothing major, but just the good people who enjoy the music to come out and just together and celebrate a milestone. Because see, that's what these things are all about for me, is making it for 30. Who in the world would have thought that you'd make 30 years of house music?
People don't even live that long anymore these days.
I know, right?
I mean, it's a sad thing. You had, 82 shootings over there in Chicago, you would know.
Yeah, so I try to recognize all of those things. One of the things that I've always done throughout my career is make sure that, historically, things get documented right and proper. Because what happened a lot of times back in the early days is people would say, oh, I created it, or I did this first, or whatnot. And I'd see these interviews and things, and I'm like, who are you even? I don't even know who you are. It's like, how you gonna say you did it and you weren't even there? So I wrote a book called House Music: The Real Story, to trying to correct all of that stuff.
Can you find that on Amazon, or where can you find your book at? On Amazon. The House Music: The Real Story. We do book reviews too. I might want to check that one out.
So I wrote that book, and then on the 20th anniversary is when I started doing all of the tours and the milestones and celebrations and stuff. So
every 5 years you release. So people got the album, and then after that, so your next album will probably be 5 years from now.
Well, the 35th anniversary compilation. Yeah. But, I mean, there's obviously stuff released in between
that you keep on working, of course. But this is really exciting. So 30 years, your show's gonna be in a few hours. Are you having DJs? Anybody that you're coming out that tonight that you want to
actually
mention?
The people that are on the thing, as I said, Kenny Summit is partnered with me. He'll be playing. Christy Mills, this is actually her venue that she uses. She's on the album as well.
Oh,
nice. Cut called Spoken Deep. And then her producer is working with us, goes by the name of Mr. Bootsauce. So it's the four of us.
And you're gonna be on the stage too, right?
Yeah.
What time are you coming on stage?
I don't come on till 12:15.
12:15. So are you excited about being on the ones and twos tonight too?
Well, it's always exciting. It's funny. There was a period in my life because I started DJing at 15 years old. Right?
Oh, wow.
So, all through my 20s, into my actually I took a little break in my 20s for a while too, because I was in the studio all the time working. I got my first record deal was with Warner Brothers, so I was at Warner Brothers for almost 8 years, and I was in the studio all that time, so I wasn't really DJing, because DJing wasn't associated with producing and production and songs back then. DJ was somebody like in the corner, you know, playing records, nobody really cared, kind of thing. So it was amazing that after I came out of that stage of being in the studio all the time, and I heard about people going to Europe and Asia and making, you know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to play for an hour, and I was like, why am I in the studio? Let me go get some. So that's what kind of made me come out of my semi-retirement kind of thing and get back into it. But so then when I started touring after that, and you know, obviously in the beginning I had my label and I was independent, then I went to the majors, and then after being fed up with how the industry went in probably the mid-90s and whatnot, because everything got shook up, all of the old regime of the people who made the big major artists actually started leaving because they started downsizing companies, the budgets got smaller, you know. When I did a production or a remix or something back in those days, you'd get anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 for one. Now